looking at autonomous agents, which we looked at yesterday. So an autonomous agent is a software that performs a task on behalf of a user. Okay, there we go. And if you elaborate that further as into the definition that we got yesterday, they have an input parameter, they have outputs, and they can perceive the environment around them. So some of the more simple autonomous agents will use just parameters for their inputs and outputs. So they will, for instance, take an input, and based on the parameters of an input, they will just produce a simple output. Whereas the more complicated autonomous agents that we are producing these days will use something like AI or machine learning in order to produce a more accurate or variable output depending on the situation, because a simple one that uses just basic parameters can't adapt very well to the situation. So a prime example of this is if we look at a shopping bot, if that will please change slide, there you go. So if we look at a shopping bot, something like this from H&M, if you were to just give this with a basic parameter-based system, it would only be able to give you, for instance, here, it's very difficult to see, but on the bottom left, the person said men's clothes, and then it's replied with some examples that fit the parameters that they've entered. So this would be an example that uses very simple parameters, such as the word men would be in a dictionary that would pull forward examples. However, you could include stuff like AI, which would include stuff like your, for instance, your age and stuff, and include items that would be more fitting for someone of your age or category or something like that. Some other examples of simple autonomous agents are, for instance, email checkers or form fillers, because although they are very simple, they are still an autonomous agent as they're completing something on behalf of a user. So then if we go to something a bit more complicated, and it actually has a far wider use, is a stock stop. So these are used in stock trading, and it's also an autonomous agent as it has inputs. It perceives the stock trail, and then it will, based on that, perform calculations, and once the price hits a certain point, it will sell the stock, as that is where this stop has been set. Some other examples of autonomous agents that I didn't include here are, for instance, autonomous cars, as those are perceiving the environment around them using LiDAR and other sensors to be able to drive autonomously. Yeah, that's the end. And then, so you asked me to show some examples of control systems. So I'm just going to switch Teams instances. Yeah, sure. Okay, so this is a home automation system run on a Raspberry Pi, and I have a few control systems that I have running on here, which are some nice examples. So, for instance, if we want to look at an open loop system, which would, for instance, be these switches. So a user gives an input, it doesn't take any output parameters or doesn't have any feedback. It's just hit a switch and it turns on a light. Well, that one doesn't work. But for instance, this, if I do that, it'll actually turn on the desk lamp in my room. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't confuse my cats. But then if we go to something a bit more complicated, so it'll be easier to.
I was also quite confused with roof light.
Because there's the lights in my roof. Damn it, I've got these images on the wrong. Same difference. But if I show you a different example. Okay, so this is my dad's plant grower thing. It has to water the plants every 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the time of day or the temperature or things like that. So I've set up using a Wi-Fi plug that looks like your full slide. Okay, there you go. So this here is a Wi-Fi outlet, and I've set this up on an automation within that home automation system, which will run it every few minutes. So if you have a look over here, and I go into automations, here I have the AeroSpring Day thing, which, as you can see, it has triggers, conditions, and actions, which is the basic parts of a control system. So the triggers, it works on a time pattern every 20 minutes at the moment. And then it also checks, it makes sure that it's during the day. So this is set on a day and night system. So it waters for a certain time during the day and for a certain time during the night. So this part of the automation runs during the day, and it will run the script called run day, which does, I think it's 1.5 minutes. And then I've got the Aerospring night, which does it for a different amount of time at night. So as you can see, it reads the information from an outside source about the time of day, so whether the sun is above or below the horizon, and then it changes the amount of time that the plants are watered based on that. And then you can also see here, these are some other systems. So if the plug's connection is lost, then it will send me a notification. So what kind of system would that be counted as? Would that be a closed, open, or just?
Yeah, that's a good question. But it's checking for.
Because it's checking the connection, and then if it's not there, then it will send a notification to an outside.
Closed, and it's not really feeding anything back.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, it's open. You mean?
Always has feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. So these are some examples of some control systems. Home automation system. Yeah, I think that's it.
Pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is this Alexa? What's this?
This is Home Assistant. It's a separate operating system that runs on top, that runs inside Raspberry Pi. So usually you would run Raspbian, but this is a completely separate OS.